the goal is to lower the emotion in that moment and
Yep.
raise logic and just say, hey, that's aggressive. And instead of saying, don't be late as usual, we want them to say, please be on time.
Right. And it conveys the same thing. One's just not being a douche.
Your words, not mine, but
yeah, I know. I know.
No,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Welcome to episode 283 of the Nacho Kids podcast. All right, folks, just a reminder that David and I will be in Scottsdale, Arizona. And if you would like to meet us on September the 7th, which is a Saturday evening, shoot me an email at Lori, Lori, at nachokids.com. And we will keep you informed of where we plan on meeting. All right. Our guest today is Kevin Dorsey. He is the manager of professional relationships of Our Family Wizard. Personally, I've never used Our Family Wizard, but I've heard great things about it. And after talking to Kevin, I wish I would have used it because it seems like it would have made my life so much easier. So without further ado, let's get to listening to Kevin. Today, we have Kevin Dorsey, manager of professional relationships with Our Family Wizard. Hey, Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So most of us that have been in blended families, step families, and have went through the court system know about Our Family Wizard. I know my child is now 19.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was going through the court system, that wasn't really there. It wasn't an option at the time. I think maybe the last 10 years, when was Our Family Wizard created?
Yeah, so we're a .com era website, so it has been around for like 23 years, but we've really hit our stride in the last 10, especially as we're still a website, but as we've kind of migrated to most people using it as an app on their phone.
Okay. Now, I know a lot of times the court system makes people use Our Family Wizard.
Yeah, it's a lot of times it'll be court ordered or attorneys will stipulate to it. Anybody can sign up. So we don't require people prove they were divorced or separated or that they were court ordered. Anybody can sign up. But what we find is the best way for both parties to get on board is for them to agree to it in mediation, have their attorney stipulate to it, or have the court order it that way. Both parties have agreed that they're going to communicate that way.
How did y'all get in the family court system?
Good question. So that kind of goes back to our origin story, which we are based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And the whole system, the whole thought behind Our Family Wizard, we're the originators of co-parenting apps, was thought of by father of divorce. He missed a pickup on Christmas Eve, and World War III broke out between him and his co-parent. And this is, I think about 1999, 2000. And, the internet's starting to become a thing and websites are becoming more and more popular. And that's when he came up with the idea. Had this been on the internet in a centralized place, instead of being on a physical notebook that they were passing back and forth, they would have made the pickup and drop off correctly. So that's kind of the impetus of the idea. He brings it to a family law attorney, and that attorney does a pilot project with a judge in Hennepin County, which is Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's always been sort of a thought leader when it comes to family courts. And so kind of no surprise there that they piloted it, tough word to say.
Yeah.
So they took 20 or 30 of the more high conflict cases in that court for that particular judge, Judge James Swenson, who I believe is since retired. And he called them his frequent flyers. So, we're talking about highly litigious families who are going to court over and over and over again.
That would have been me.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people fall into that. I think we have seen a swing more towards mediation more recently, but yeah. So he gives these families a tool to resolve a lot of these issues out of court on their own. And as the story goes, a lot of families didn't come back to court, and the ones that did had authenticated records. So he says, you're onto something. This is a great idea. Flash forward to today, we've moved from a website to most people are using it as a smartphone app. Again, I mentioned earlier, you can still use it as a website, but we've been used in all 50 states.
Wow.
UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and I think we're used in 78 countries now. So it's been really exciting to see us go from this .com era website to, as far as the family law world's concerned, we're definitely a part of it. We've become a part of pop culture. You'll see us mentioned on like the Real Housewives or Vanderpump, or you know, in celebrity divorce cases, they'll mention people are using our family wizard. So
Yeah.
it's been pretty interesting to see how far we've come in the last couple decades.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of our story
Yeah.
and how I had looked at our podcast one time to see how many countries we're in, and it was like 76. And I'm like, I didn't know there were that many
Wow.
countries. And then we've had people from the Academy, from Africa, the UK, Australia, everywhere. And it's just amazing to me that just like y'all, we are reaching people globally.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing the reach of the internet
Hmm.
and how these types of challenges for families, they're not limited to a certain country, a certain sect of people. It's not class or lower class. We're seeing these challenging issues be for everybody.
Right. That's one thing we've noticed too, being in and out of the family court system for 18 years, because basically my ex didn't want to pay child support and he was convinced that if he went back to court enough, they wouldn't make him. And
Right.
so being in that, like the family court system, it needs to be revamped.
Hmm.
But it's not just the United States, and it's not just family court. The whole court system all over the world needs to be revamped.
Yeah, we see it especially challenging here with how litigious people are. We're trying to reduce the excessive litigation.
Hmm.
So, there are things that need to be litigated sometimes. And hopefully, what we do is kind of reduce the noise of all the peripheral stuff that doesn't need to be talked about.
Right.
And we can focus on what does need to be litigated. But, there are other countries that do have better systems. What we've seen in Australia and the UK, it seems like, they are less litigious. There's less long term trails on these cases. They don't go on for years and years. Of course, there's exceptions.
Yeah, they don't play though.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And one thing we did see was, during the pandemic, the courts shut down
Yeah.
and slowly opened back up. A lot of them were remote for a long time. Some of them are still remote. And with less bandwidth for the courts, we did see more people turn to mediation.
Hmm.
And I believe that trend has continued. Now, some people they still want their day in court,
Right.
but we have seen more emphasis on mediation, especially from this sort of next generation of parents going through divorce and
Hmm.
separation, more of a push towards resolving things out of court.
Which is very important for those involved, even the kids.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
And
the tough part is, the kids get stuck in the middle of this and they didn't choose to be part of it. We oftentimes focus on the parents and the parents want to be right. And meanwhile,
mhm.
there's children kind of stuck in the middle.
Yeah, I actually saw a post this morning where a lady said something about the stepkid it lives with her and her husband, the dad, in a different country than the bio mom. And apparently, bio mom's upset because she doesn't get the kid for Christmas this year. She's like, how is it right that a mom only sees their child once a year? And the
Hmm.
stepmom's kind of gloaty about it. Like, well, you chose this kind of thing.
Wow.
And not one single person other than myself asked, what does the kid want?
Hmm. Yeah, I think, the buzzword, and as it should be, the buzz sort of term is best interest of the child.
Right.
And, that's what the judge's job is. And I think all of us who kind of work in this space, that's really our goal is to boil it down of what's the best solution for the child at this time.
Yeah. And I think my issue mainly with the family court system is, like you said, the judge is supposed to do what's in the best interest of the child. But he's basing that, or she is basing that off of the 10 minutes that your attorney speaks for you. It's not from getting to know you, or you know what I mean? It's how they represent you, how your attorney represents you. So a lot of times, it depends on how good the attorney is. And I just feel like it needs to be more, let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? Personable. or personal.
Yeah.
You
It,
just get to know me before you judge me.
yeah. And especially in a system where over half the litigants are pro se now.
Yes.
You've got a lot of people representing themselves because they don't have the funds for an attorney. And yeah, it can be tough to find the best solution when there isn't equal representation.
Right. And we work with Anthony Cancel. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's pro se dad. He
Okay.
teaches dads how to not necessarily represent themselves in court as much as understand the court system.
It's such a challenge. I'm still learning things about the family court, and every state's different. Sometimes
Yeah.
counties within the same state are different, and then things change when legislation comes through. So yeah, a lot of people do their best being a pro se litigant, but it's a huge challenge.
I was afraid to do it.
Yeah, I would be too.
I felt like if I represented myself, first of all, I'm too emotionally attached to my kid. But even if I wasn't, if for some reason I lost time with him, I would blame it on myself forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of onus there.
Yeah.
But yeah, for some people, it's like it's really just not in the cards, and that's why it's such a high number, high percentage of people representing themselves.
Right. Now, let's talk about our family wizard. What
Hmm.
does it offer? Because I know there's other like
Sure.
talking parents. I don't even know all of them, but I know there's other things. But our
Yeah.
family wizard seems to be the best. And I'm not just saying that because you're on here.
Yeah, I did not pay you to say that.
Nope, you did not.
Yeah, so we are considered sort of like the Cadillac standard. We're the originators. We do it the best. We do have competitors, and if you do a search, you'll find that out pretty quickly. So I'll just give you the elevator pitch for our family wizard
Okay.
because some people might be listening to this and have never heard of us or what we do. So our family wizard, it's an app to help divorced and separated parents communicate. You use it on your phone, you can use it on a computer, but it's used in lieu of text, email, and now voice calls. You can do voice calls through our family wizard and video calls.
Oh, wow.
So you do all your communication through an app on your phone. It's designed for co-parenting. It's got a bunch of different tools, a calendar, an expense log, a place for family information, all your messaging, being able to make audio and video calls. And the advantage is it's highly documented, it's court admissible. You can't delete things, you can't alter things after they're sent. It gives you that peace of mind that nothing's been altered and
Mhm.
that when you print off reports, they're accurate. So, yeah, that's kind of just the quick elevator pitch for our family wizard.
And it's very important to know that these things can't be altered because I know I was in court one time and my son's father's attorney handed me an email and he said, "Did you send this email to my client?" I skimmed it. I didn't read the whole thing. It looked like mine. I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Even part whatever." And I looked, I'm like, "No, I didn't put that in there." And they were saying that I had falsified emails and showing that they could do the same. So that's what that was all about.
Hmm.
But I don't know how they did it, but I'm sure anybody could figure it out how to do it. But even
Yeah.
text, you can't take your phone in there.
Yeah. It's, we, when I present, I show a video of how easy it is to manipulate texts and emails. Yeah, I won't get into the specifics of that, but we've seen people change dates and times on emails, as well as texts. I can go into my iPhone, I can delete one text from yesterday in a string of texts and then give it to my attorney. So it's easier than ever to alter email and text. And that's the huge advantage with our family wizard. Once a message is sent, it can't be deleted. And then there's read receipts on everything. So, if I send you an email or a message, Lori, you open it, I'll see date and timestamp when you opened it and vice versa.
Which is good because you don't have to let the other person know, yes, I got this. I know many times I would email my son's father and never get a response. I'm like, well, did he get it or did he not?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because if you did click the read receipt, he would just deny it. So it's like, okay, so that's another benefit.
Oh yeah. And if you are litigating right now and you're on our family wizard, that might, be a huge tool for you and your attorney to go and say, okay, I sent this, was it received or not?
Right.
And when?
Now, I know you said it's got like something for bills, right? Where you can put
Hmm.
in bills that you have related to the kids.
Yep. So we call it expenses. People use it typically for unreimbursed medical, dental, school supplies, soccer camp, things like that. What's nice is we're really trying to avoid the shoebox full of receipts or the folder full of receipts,
Mm-hmm.
and being like, okay, let's add this all up and ask for reimbursement. So you can enter reimbursement requests through the app. You can snap a picture of the receipt. It attaches to that request. It's all documented. And then they can even link up their checking accounts and send money through the site.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah. So that's an optional feature we call OFW Pay. But what's nice about that is you see start from finish. Here's when this expense was proposed, all the way to when the funds were deposited.
Right. Yep. Which is important. You've got to have those records.
Yeah, it's the more things you can get into our family wizard, the better, because then you're not having to pull bank records and go to the phone company and, oh, now we need to try to subpoena Facebook or Google. And it's like, good luck.
Yeah.
Will they get back to you? Maybe. When will they get back to you? Who knows?
And how much is that costing?
Yeah, and it's a timely thing too, where it's like we need this now, not a year from now. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we're designed for co-parenting. You're going to be able to have that documentation right away.
That is awesome. Does it also record the videos that you like? If I guess you have video calls with your kid, does it record those?
Yeah, so good question. We have a couple options there. So this is a relatively new feature, the ability to make audio and video calls. The story goes during the pandemic, we saw a huge uptick in video visitation
Mm-hmm.
being court ordered or agreed to in mediation. An example would be, okay, we've come to our agreement, and one of the carve outs says dad gets 30-minute video call Sunday night at 5 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Then families were doing this on FaceTime or on Zoom, and it wasn't well documented. So they would end up back in court and say, oh, well, I call and they hang up. And the other side says, no, he never calls.
Yeah.
So who knows who's telling the truth there? So the initial use case is video visitation, parent to child, unrecorded. So it's still a private conversation between me and my child. But when you hang up the phone, you're going to have a report that says, here's who called who picked the phone up, how long it went for, and who hung up.
I love that.
So you get that peace of mind of, okay, the call wasn't recorded, but we know it took place. We know how long it went for. So that's one use case. In that case, if you were my co-parent, Lori, I would call you through our family wizard. You would hand the phone to the kid and we have our conversation.
Right.
It locks you in that screen so you can't go to other parts of our family wizard. There is a version that's recorded as well. That's more intended parent to parent. So that would be for your more high conflict families. Maybe there's been harassment or domestic violence. Families who need the peace of mind that these interactions are being documented, they have the option to record the calls as well. So both parties would opt in to agreeing to record it. Just like on Zoom, it would tell you you're being recorded as the call starts.
That is awesome.
Yeah, in that case, you would have an audio and video file to download afterwards, as well as a transcript.
That is amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. We knew there was a taste for this, but it's been adopted more than we ever imagined. There's already been close to, I want to say 2 million calls made in a year on our family wizard.
Wow.
Yeah.
This would have helped me tremendously.
Yeah, this particular one, another use case that I forgot to mention is for domestic violence cases. So in the past, a lot of people, if you're not in a DV case, even when there's been domestic violence, there's usually still co-parenting going on.
Right.
And so what we've said is, well, if you need to call each other, you can use Google Voice. And each time you use Google Voice, choose a new phone number. So we've found a solution for that using these calls through our family wizard because you don't share your phone number.
Right.
So I could call you, you wouldn't see my phone number and vice versa. So if someone who's a survivor of domestic violence, they can be communicating with their co-parent through here, not reveal their new address, their email, their phone number.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome too. Now, does the judge review these records or do the attorneys review them and present them to the judge?
Typically, judges aren't involved in reviewing those records. There might be some exceptions in like smaller counties where the judge kind of wears all of the hats. They're the parenting coordinator and they kind of have to do everything. But 95% of the time, it's attorneys who would pull the reports and kind of bring them in as discovery for the case.
Okay. Now, earlier you were talking about mediation
Hmm.
and talking about how more people go through mediation. I know in our state, they require you to go to mediation.
Hmm.
And, I don't want to sound like a constant complainer or Debbie Downer, but I don't like mediation either
Interesting.
because it's the same thing. It's like you're betting, you're gambling. And they'll tell you, well, you never know what the judge is going to do. And for instance, say that a child was put in danger by a bio parent drinking and driving and got caught. The other bio parent has to go get an attorney to stop visitation
Mhm.
legally
Yeah.
or to put some kind of restraints in place, we'll say. Then you go to court and you want the bio parent that is defending their child, I guess you would say, feels that the other parent should pay for their attorney's fees because okay, this is getting convoluted. Hang on.
I'm hanging with you. I'm
All right.
hanging with you.
Okay. So the drunk driving parent should have to pay the attorney's fees, in my opinion, 100%.
Hmm.
They caused this to happen. In mediation, they will tell you, well, a judge could look at it like this, and they could look at it like this, and you might be lucky and get half. And it's like, why is it not black and white? You caused this to happen. This is your punishment.
Yeah, in that scenario, typically once it gets to a criminal component, we're seeing people litigate.
Yeah. But then
Yeah.
again, people are afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I go through litigation and go to this hearing, the judge might not side with me. They may think that I'm being whatever, greedy, and they may look at this person and have more empathy for my ex because he looks poor. Just it's just so many variables that I know judges are supposed to not have bias, but they do. They're humans.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose in that scenario too, like it's different if you were caught drinking and driving versus an allegation of it as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, then of course it goes into, well, they were caught and charged with it, but were they convicted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
And in most states, DUI cases push out 4 or 5 years just to lessen the punishment, I guess.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no question that these cases can be extremely layered and complex.
Yeah. And we've had judges and attorneys join our Not Your Kids Academy. And we've had several of them say that if they could require the parents that come in their courtroom to watch our videos, they would make them
Yeah.
because it would just calm things down so much.
Yeah. I tell people that there's really not one solution to this. I wish I could tell you, get on our family wizard. It's going to solve all your problems. Kumbaya.
Yeah.
We're a part of the solution,
Right.
So it's like parenting education, anger management, our
Yep.
family wizard. There's a service called SoberLink that helps parents monitor, alcohol during parenting time, therapy, family therapy.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a triage. And if you find the right combination, that's typically going to get you to a more peaceful place and where you can start healing and communicating better.
Right. And that's like with us, learning to nacho does not stop you from having problems. It gives you the tools to deal with those problems when they arise.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell people, there's a lot of challenges you're going to face and you need a toolkit, and our family wizard's a Swiss Army knife, but you need more than a Swiss Army knife in your toolkit.
Yeah. That would be, I'm telling you, I think my whole co parenting relationship would have been so much easier if we would have used our family wizard.
Yeah. That's when people find out that I work with our family wizard, I get that response all the time, be it a Lyft driver or just, someone I'm sitting next to on a plane, like, oh my goodness, this would have really helped me when I was going through my divorce or separation.
Right. Because doesn't it also do something like tell you if your tone is not the best or if your message could be perceived as hateful or something like that? Like
Yeah,
put a little
so
frowny face like you're being ugly.
yeah, people get a kick out of it. It's called tone meter.
Uh-huh.
Tone meter, the best way to describe it is it's an emotional spell check.
Hmm.
So kind of like Microsoft Word would flag your spelling or grammar errors as you're typing, this is going to flag your tone. And so it's giving you feedback as you're typing your message.
Right.
It'll pick up on swear words, certain phrases. What I like is it picks up on passive aggressiveness as well.
Oh,
And
man, this would have been priceless for me.
right, I'm from the
Oh,
Midwest. We love our passive aggressiveness up there.
yep.
So, if I say don't be late as usual,
Right.
it'll pop up and say that's humiliating. And we don't force parents to rephrase it. We don't suggest how
Yeah, my
to's.
ex would have been like, perfect. Ching, send.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. People get a kick out of that.
Yeah.
But what we're really trying to do is give them a yellow light and say, hey, before you send that, do you want to rephrase it?
Right. And then if they send it, a judge is going, if the attorney presents it, a judge is going to look at it and go, dude, they told you were being ugly.
Yeah. It's going to be pretty obvious,
Yeah.
right? Like you're still being aggressive, even with the tone meter turned on. But the goal is to lower the emotion in that moment and
Yeah.
raise logic and just say, hey, that's aggressive. And instead of saying, don't be late as usual, we want them to say, please be on time.
Right. And it conveys the same thing. One's just not being a douche.
Your words, not mine, but
Yeah, I know. I
yeah,
know.
no,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's one of those things where a lot of people don't understand how they're coming across on especially texts.
Right.
I think we all have coworkers or family members where it's like, whoa, 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 why are you yelling at me? And they don't even know that that's how it's being perceived.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so we're trying to give parents a training ground on sort of learning how to change the tone of their messages.
Yeah. I know we were talking about tone the other day. I have a friend that no matter what she is saying, she sounds hateful. She could say happy birthday and it just sounds mean.
Yeah.
And so we were laughing about that. And she said, but I'm smiling. I said, but when you're texting, people don't know that. They just know you and they're hearing it. They're hearing you say it.
Yeah, I suppose she needs to put a smiley face at the beginning and the end of all of her texts.
Yeah. Yeah. I did that one time and somebody said that doesn't help. Like, well, it made
That's
me feel
really
better.
funny. Yeah.
But it is hard to convey what you're trying to say. I actually had a girl that I've known since I was 16. I actually dated her stepbrother, and she was a guest on our podcast. And she chooses to use Marco Polo to send stuff to her ex. That way, there's no texting, there's no email, there's no reading between the lines. He gets her face and what she's saying.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, it works for them. It wouldn't have worked for me.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that one before.
But she said it works better for them because the text message either it gets read, it doesn't get read, it gets replied to, it doesn't. She doesn't know if he gets it, but with I guess Marco Polo, you can tell if it's been read or listened to, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's just as simple as saying friendly reminder before you remind someone. And that's really helped me in my day-to-day life. Have you ever talked about the BIFF method, BIFF? Bill Eddy?
Hang on, I'm trying to remember what it means. Go ahead and tell me because
Yeah,
I've heard of it.
so
My
this
husband loves those things.
this is like a must read for practitioners and families going through divorce or separation. It's called BIFF by Bill Eddy, EDDY, and it stands for brief, informative, friendly, firm.
Yeah.
And that's the acronym for how to communicate with high conflict people.
Mm-hmm.
Secret is I use it with everybody now.
Yes.
So if you email with me, my emails are short, they're friendly, and they're to the point. And it should be required reading, and it really gives you those skills on how to communicate effectively and not sort of have these moments where tone's being perceived wrong or you're over explaining yourself or you're asking too many questions.
Right. Now, I know this is a funny story. I had a job that I had to work with salesmen at one point, and I'm one of those people, I don't sugarcoat stuff. So it's,
Mhm.
"Hey, here's what you requested. Have a good day." You're
Mhm.
lucky if you get a have a good day, right? And my boss told me, he said, "I need you to coddle them more."
Mhm.
I'm like, "You are kidding me?" He said, "No, you need to ask about their families
Mhm.
and show you care." I said, "They're not my customers. Why? I don't understand. They're salesmen. They are adults. Why am I having to them?" And so we had to go through this thing one time where we had to put what we did throughout the day. And I put spent 2 hours coddling adult men because it,
Yeah.
it does. It made me sit there and go, okay, hi, hope you're doing well. How's the wife? Oh, let me
Mhm.
look. How many kids did you have? Okay. How are the two kids? And what's your dog's name? Just it's
Yeah.
too much. And I don't know if it's just me and my personality, but I'm like, those are needy people.
Yeah, there's a lot of us that are very a matter of fact, and we do need the reminder sometimes, even if it's just, I hope all is well at the beginning of the email or a friendly reminder. Those little things can go a long way for the perception of our messages.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to work on that. And it's funny you said how you use the Biff now
Hmm.
with everybody.
It's,
And that's like I talk about how I use nacho kids all the time and everywhere. Like I
yeah.
nacho Walmart. It stresses me out. So I don't go to Walmart. Anything
Yeah.
that causes me stress, I have figured out a way to avoid it, deal with it in a different way. Like if somebody's riding behind you and all on your butt, used to, I'd get mad and tap my brakes and get all frustrated. Now I'll pull over. I'll be like, have a good day. It's like, you're not stealing my joy.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's such a good life lesson. That's a reminder we need now more than ever.
Dude, I tell you, I'm not exaggerating. This whole nacho thing, it changed me as a person. I used to be the person that would say what everybody else was afraid to say. And I looked at that as a good thing. And it's not
Mm.
always a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, so
Sometimes you need to keep your mouth shut.
yeah, I think we're kindred spirits because I think a lot of times you say it and there's other people in the room that are like, "Oh, I'm so glad you said that because that's exactly what I was thinking." But there are times when it can get you in trouble as well.
Yeah, we had I worked for a company that the boss man, he was just not a very nice man. And everybody in our department, 5 of us, were complaining. Nobody was happy, blah, blah, blah. So I said, well, we need to have a meeting. So we scheduled a meeting. We get in there and the guy says, okay, so what's the problems? Everybody's like, nothing, I'm fine. I'm like, what? What is wrong with you people? I said, I'll tell you what the problem is. But all these people, they wouldn't stand up for themselves.
Mhm.
But it's not my place to stand up for them. And that's
Yeah,
something I had to learn.
yeah, it's a good life lesson.
Hmm. But it's made me think before I speak, which is amazing that I can do that because I never thought I could do that before. And it's helped me to put the proper emotional weight on things and to look at things from a perspective of 30,000 feet versus I'm
Mhm.
slapping it.
Yeah, I think slowing down and kind of letting the emotions wash over you is important before
Hmm.
reacting in anything, let alone divorces and separations where emotions are charged more than ever.
Right.
You find this interesting. Most people use our family wizard for about 3 to 4 years. And
Okay.
so what that number tells me is after about 3 or 4 years, we start seeing the emotions coming down. The logic starts coming up, communication starts improving.
Hmm.
And then we kind of bridge people back to email and text and voice calls.
Right. So your
Um,
goal is not to keep people on here for 18 years.
no, and are there families that are going to be on there till the last kid turns 18? Yes.
Hmm.
But the average is about 3 to 4 years. And that's what I tell people is because some people think of it as, they're being disciplined or this is a punishment. Why can't we just text? Why can't we email? This is specifically designed for the situation you're in. You don't have to use it forever. Use it for those first few years where everything's really emotional and communication's at an all-time low.
Yeah.
And then after it's improved, we see ourselves as a bridge back towards email and text and voice calls.
Yeah. Because you're retraining them to respond instead of react.
Mhm.
And
And
yeah, and to pause.
exactly. And things like our calendar, co-parenting calendaring's confusing.
Yeah.
And so it's little things like that where it's like you could use our family wizard just for that element where people will say, well, we'll try to use Google or we'll try to use Outlook for our calendar. It's not designed for co-parenting.
Right.
So you start to get into these 2-2-3, 3-3-4-4, alternating weekends, every fifth weekend, alternating weeks. There's so many different templates for co-parenting scheduling, especially as a first time family going through this. It's especially confusing.
Right.
So we have a calendar that's designed for this, where you go in and select, we're on the 2-2-3. This is, parent A's day. This is my day. Let's have it rotate for the rest of the year.
Oh my gosh, that saves you hours.
It's insane. Like let's say you get done with work, you open up your phone, you just scan in with your face or a code, and you at your fingertips, you've got your schedule for the day. Okay, I'm picking up from school. I'm dropping off at soccer practice, and my co-parent's picking up.
Yeah.
It's all color coordinated. It's right there in the palm of your hand. So just for the calendar alone, we see people really finding benefits.
Yeah. Does it send reminders or anything?
Yeah, so you can set up notifications. You can be notified on everything and any combination of what's going on in the app. You can get them push notifications, which are in app notifications.
Right.
You can get text or email as well. Some people, they just want to know when there's a new message, so you can set it that way. Some people don't want to be pinged throughout the day, so you can get an email at 5 p.m. that summarizes everything that happened that day.
Right.
So there's a lot of options there. If you're listening to this and right now you're getting co-parenting messages in your work email or on your personal phone, and it kind of takes you out of your day because you're plugging away at work and then boom, a co-parenting thing comes in and it just kind of stops you in your tracks.
Makes you sick just to see
It's
their name.
it does for some people. It can be very triggering.
Yeah.
And what's nice about what we do is it compartmentalizes co-parenting. So
Mhm.
everything's in our family wizard, and when you want to go there, you go there.
Well, that was one thing I was going to say. It keeps you from getting messages throughout the day to distract you.
Exactly. So, I call it co-parenting land, which people get a kick out of. So, when you want to go to co-parenting land, you can open our family wizard and there's everything. And when you close it, you can get back to work. You can go about your day to day without kind of having that moment to interrupt you.
Is there a way to send like something that's time sensitive? So, say I needed an answer within 24 hours. Could I flag that somehow? And the person that I'm sending it to gets a notification, hey, this is kind of important.
Yeah, we don't have a flagging system. I mean, you could put that in your note, like, I need an answer to this today. A lot of times it's agreed to how often our family wizard needs to be checked.
Mhm.
So that's when it comes down to like good mediation agreement writing, good order writing in court, where you would have a carve out that says our family wizards to be checked every 12 hours, or all messages are to be responded to within a certain amount of time. So
Yeah.
typically it'll be 24 hours, 12, 48, whatever makes sense for the family.
Well, I would need mine to say 48 because I've always learned to not respond to something that emotionally charges me for 24 hours.
Well, and that's something interesting about the BIF method is that you don't have to respond to everything in the email or the message.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, let's say you send me a message and there's 10 questions in it, and there's really just two that need to be responded to. In the past, I would have still responded to all 10.
Oh, yeah. And you're
And
going to
you
respond to the 10 attacks.
and you don't have to. You
Right.
can let those go, and you can just say, "Hey, yep, no, I'm planning on being there. I'll be at the dentist to pick up, and yep, I'll reimburse you for soccer camp." And
Yeah.
what's nice about that is a lot of that sort of noise, it's water under the bridge.
Yeah. I can definitely see it being beneficial 100%.
Mhm.
And talking about the BIF method and the emails, David and I both would get emails from the ex or each exes. And we would spend hours trying to respond to every accusation and trying to explain everything they didn't understand and just, oh my gosh. And then we would wait and read it again later. So it consumed us, right? We finally got to the point that we're like, this is not our life. We are not spending all of our time trying to figure out how to reply to this in a proper way in case it ends up in court.
Yeah, it's exhausting,
Yep. So we
and
started replying, okay, that was it.
yeah, yeah, reply to what needs to be replied to.
Yep. And if there's a question, reply to it.
Mhm.
But also, like with the Biff method, you don't have to tell a story. You
Yeah,
don't need to give them every detail. Like you said, yes, no, yes, I'll be there and I'll pay for whatever when I get there.
that's what's nice about our family wizard is there's so many tools that ideally you're using the other tools before you message, instead of saying, hey, the dentist is coming up on the 18th in a message, just add the dentist to the calendar and it
Right.
doesn't need to be a message.
Yep.
Things like uploading the insurance card, just go ahead and upload it. They're going to get a notification that you did.
That's priceless too.
Yeah, it's like, let's just get as much information on the other tools first. And if it can't be conveyed there, then send the message. But what that does is it takes these long diatribes that if you've been in a divorce or separation, or if you're a practitioner who's read these messages, they can be a page, 2 page, 3 pages long. We're trying to get them down to a paragraph.
Right. A sentence. Yeah.
I mean, it can be done. I've seen it,
Yeah.
and it's that's really reducing the extra stuff, trying to get rid of any of the extra stuff and using the other tools first, and then only message about what needs to be messaged about.
Right. Now, one other thing you said was about good order writing.
Hmm.
I see it every day. Someone will post a snippet of their court order
Sure.
and say, what does this mean? How do you translate this? And it's usually over visitation.
Yeah.
People make sure there is no gray areas in that stuff. When you read it, before you sign it, if there's a question, don't sign it. Tell them you want that clarified. I actually had an attorney one time that I was getting ready to sign the papers and I noticed how he worded something. I said, wait a minute. This says that when he gets another job, he's supposed to let me know, and that we'll have to go back to court for recalculation of child support. Why is it not just done then? Why do we have to go back to court? He said, job security. I said, I don't like you. But
Yeah.
a lot of attorneys do that. You've dealt with attorneys, I'm sure.
Hmm.
Not all of them are the best. And I understand job security, but some of it's ridiculous. And so I made him change it before I would sign it.
Yeah, there's a
Like, no.
push nationwide to make orders easier to read,
Yep.
to get rid of the Latin terminology and to have it at like a third or fourth grade reading level so it's fair to everybody.
Hmm.
I worked with a court in it's in Allegheny, which is Pittsburgh, where they've really been leaders in that as far as making it easy to read.
Hmm.
And so that's starting to catch on. With our family wizard, the pitfall you can fall into is just having one line and saying communicate through our family wizard.
Right.
Okay, well, how? There's so many features, there's so many tools. So we have a sample court order that you don't have to use the whole thing, but it's got lines, carve outs for each different feature, notifications, how often you're supposed to check it. That from now on, any our family wizard will be accepted through discovery into evidence. And so
Right.
that's where good order writing can be really helpful with our family wizard, where it's not just we're communicating through here. It's you have to have your account set up by this specific day. All communication goes through here unless it's an emergency. You can have neutrals link up to the accounts. So let's say you had a parenting coordinator, a guardian ad litem, some sort of neutral in the case. They could link to both parents and maybe help coach some of the communication.
Yeah. And I think it's so important that they do use those templates that you have or your sample court order saying you need to check it this many hours, upload any insurance cards,
Mhm.
whatever, to the web, kind of like a checklist.
Mhm. Yeah, because we have a whole section just for family information.
Hmm.
So this is the stuff that oftentimes you don't think about until you're kind of off and going, but it's a centralized place for insurance, you know,
What about family history?
vaccines, yeah, all that stuff.
Okay.
Health history, shirt size, shoe size, blood type, just having everything in a centralized place because you know how it is with back to school shopping and things like
Yeah.
that. You can have sort of blow ups over well, you sent the kid home and shoes that are too small.
Right. Yeah.
And even for like domestic violence cases, the more information we can have in that family information bank, then you reduce the need to reach out to each other. So,
Right.
and that works for high conflict cases too, even moderate conflict, where it's like, yeah, if the insurance card's there, I don't have to message you for it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And you were talking about the shoe size. The weirdest court case I ever heard about was a mom almost, well, almost lost custody of her kid because she was accused of adultery. The only reason the judge did not give the dad full custody was he didn't know what size pants he wore.
Hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. I haven't heard that one.
But like the judge was ready to, say, okay, you get the kid, blah, blah, blah.
Uh-huh.
And he said, what size pants does your son wear? He said, I don't know. He's like, oh, okay, never mind.
Wow.
Yeah. So that is important because it cuts down on so much stuff. I remember those text messages. Somebody's going to get Jackson shoes for Christmas. What size will he need? I don't
Mhm.
know. This is what he wears now.
Right.
Yeah. But it cuts back on all that.
Yeah, we're really trying to reduce the need to over communicate.
Yeah. And I think y'all have done a very good job because I'm sitting here thinking of what's something y'all could add? What's something that, and it seems like you've covered everything.
That's the thing is like, because we work so closely with the family law community and parents, they come to us and say, hey, we need a solution for this. And we come up with it.
Hmm.
Another one I haven't mentioned is a lot of times there can be conflict over parenting time exchanges.
Hmm.
And what we hear is, well, I showed up and they weren't there. And then the other side says, no, I was there and they weren't. Or I was in the north parking lot and she was in the south parking lot. We never found each other, so the exchange didn't happen.
Right. Because you can't communicate and text and say, I'm over here.
Right.
Yeah.
Or, maybe someone wasn't there or they
Right.
didn't want to be found.
Hmm.
But it's tough to tell that story. And so we came up with something called check-ins. And you can think of it like a
Oh,
Facebook check-in, but
yeah.
it's limited to within 500 feet of where your phone is.
And it's like, I'm here.
Exactly. Drops a pin. You can attach a picture if you want. You can select businesses within 500 feet of where you're standing, and you can say, I'm at McDonald's and I'm ready for the exchange. I can see
Right.
when my co-parent first views it, and they can check in when they get there. And that whole who said what when goes away because you've done a geolocated check-in.
Right. And you can't be somewhere else and do it.
No, you can't check in across town. And that came out of a story where this is what people do nationwide. They'd say, well, if you want to prove you were there, go to McDonald's, buy a coffee,
Get a
save your
receipt.
receipt, and that's your check-in. Well, now you can do that on our Family Wizard. You can still go to McDonald's, you just don't have to buy the coffee.
Yeah. 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 I know we had a situation like that where we went to meet him, didn't show up. You wait 30 minutes because you don't know how long to wait because it's not in my court papers. And it's like, okay, after a while, you're like, I'm leaving. 3 hours later, I get a phone call. You need to bring him back. Like, what? You weren't there. But of course, again, fear kicked in. What would a judge think that I didn't take him back?
Mhm.
We were an hour and a half away at that point because we had plans.
Right. Or you
I had to,
second guess yourself. Was I wrong? Did I have the time wrong?
right. So I ended up going back.
Mhm.
I regret that 100% because it uprooted everybody that day.
And in a situation like that, at least you would have had that check-in to say, no, I was there.
Right.
Here it is on OFW. I checked in at 1 p.m. That's when the exchange was. I get called 2 or 3 hours later to make the exchange. And, now I'm across town. I can't make it back there.
Right. And two, I know people would say, well, take a picture of where you are, like the sign, the McDonald's sign.
Mhm.
Well, now pictures do have that geotagging to it.
Sure. Yep.
Well, again, I've got to remember I've been, Jackson's 19 now. So a lot of this stuff we didn't have back then,
Yeah, and
just to be able
plus
to do that.
getting that entered into evidence is going to be trickier than our family wizard because people are so familiar with our record keeping, and
Hmm.
it's print off the report, it gets goes through discovery, becomes evidence, as opposed to pulling metadata from a picture. And I'm sure you could do it, but it's just it's
Yeah.
another thing to be tracking.
So how much does our family wizard cost?
Good question. So the base price is $120 per year per parent.
All right. $10 a month
Yep.
per
10
person.
bucks a month per parent. We think it's more than fair. If it keeps you out of court for 1 hour, it's more than
Oh, yeah.
paid for itself. I think a lot of attorneys are minimum $300 an hour now.
Hmm.
So that's the goal. We want to keep you out of court, and think of it as an investment into saving you money. The 120 is the base price. Most people pay 150 per year per parent because that gives you the ability to make those unrecorded calls and send money through the site.
Okay.
Yep. So most families are on that $150 plan because they want to be able to make those calls and send money checking account to checking account. But
I would have
at
paid.
120, you get everything else except for those two features.
Okay. I would have paid $120 a month to have to deal with my ex list.
That's the thing is people say, "Oh, a month, that's great." And I'm like, "No, it's a year."
Yeah. And you're thinking maybe we should go up on the price.
Yeah, yeah. So we also know that this is a tough time financially for parents.
Yeah.
And so, we kept it at a $99 price for 22 or 23 years.
Yeah.
So we were very generous for a long time as we've added features, and, the cost of doing business has gone up. We've jumped up to 120, but we still think it's very reasonable and should pay for itself 10 times over within a year.
Yeah.
I should also mention we have a fee waiver. So if you're listening to this and you have been declared indigent by the court, your attorney's working pro bono, you're on government assistance like food stamps, we'll waive the fee completely. And so there's a form you can fill out to qualify for that.
Oh, I love that even more.
So we're very generous with that. We've done like 35,000 complimentary accounts in the last 5 years.
Wow.
I've been with Our Family Wizard for almost 10 years now. And that's a big reason that keeps me coming back is how many families we've helped that are in need. And then how many kids we've helped kind of get out of the middle of some tough situations.
Yeah. And I know when I started doing Nacho Kids, it's a different feeling knowing you're actually helping people. And I mean, places I've worked before, for instance, I worked at a place that did medical supplies. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's helping people, but you don't see the direct effect. But with what you're seeing and what we see, you directly get to see how this affects people.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll be, at a conference and exhibiting, and there'll be an adjacent conference that has nothing to do with what we do.
Uh-huh.
And a parent will come up and kind of eye the booth and say, "Hey, you're Our Family Wizard?" Like, "Yeah, well, I'm not part of your conference, but this saved my life.
Uh-huh.
If I didn't have Our Family Wizard, like, I wouldn't be able to co-parent." And, just
Yeah.
happenstance, this person runs into us. So we've had a lot of those sort of success stories of parents sort of, being able to maintain their voice and find accountability and find better communication.
And I think it probably helps them outside of their blend too.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, this whole process of me learning about communicating better, like I said, I'm using it in my regular day life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because they're great tools to have.
Hmm.
And one of those is learning to respond instead of react.
I like that.
And it's so easy to react. These are your kids, Dad sent him home in size 2T shorts and was cutting off his circulation. We need to go to court for that.
Yeah.
No, you don't need to go to court for that. You need to address it and maybe save it for another time you have to go to court, but you don't go just to court for that.
Yeah. It's reframing of what needs to be dealt with.
Right.
If the wrong iPad charging cable gets sent home, does it have to be an issue or not?
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. Yep. Well, I am so thankful that y'all have created this.
Yeah, I'm really proud to be a part of the company.
Yes, it's amazing.
It really is.
I'm just sad that I didn't know about it back in the day, because I really think that it would have put my ex and I at a better place
Mhm.
than we are right now. And I mean, like I said, we're 19 years in. And it seems like anytime we would make progress in building a decent co-parent relationship, something would happen and then the emails would start. Whereas that could
Yeah.
have been stopped with the Our Family Wizard.
And I think that's important to remember is like, your communication might improve and you get off Our Family Wizard, kid becomes a teenager and things get challenging again. You can come back to your Our Family Wizard accounts. We've saved everything. So you can pick up right where you left off, even if you've been off the site for a couple of years, because we know that, things get better and then there's challenges down the road.
Right. That's great. So where can people find Our Family Wizard?
Sure. You can go to ourfamilywizard.com. It's got all the information you need. You can sign up there, print off any sort of, the fee waiver. We have a military discount, the model court order. That'll take care of everything. It's got tutorials. So go ahead and go to ourfamilywizard.com. It's OUR familywizard.com.
Where'd the name come from?
That's a good question. I think a lot of people think we're called My Family Wizard, but yeah, I think it's one of those names that's just goofy enough for everyone to remember.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. It's served us well.
Yes. And like you said, there may be a time that somebody doesn't need it any longer, and then they can come back and use it.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely see that being a, benefit of the Our Family Wizard. You've got everything from before. You're not starting fresh, but you can continue to communicate through it if you need to.
Exactly.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast.
Yeah, that time flew right by. It was a pleasure speaking with you, Lori.
Yes, we'll have to thank Bradley for introducing us.
Yes, definitely. Thanks to Brad Craig.
Yes, he's awesome too. I really like him.
Yeah, he's a big proponent of good communication, including Our Family Wizard.
Yeah, he's like, wait a minute, I'm not here to promote them. Let's get back to me. Focus on me, Lori. I'm like, but I got questions. Well, thanks again, and we wish you the best.
Yeah, thanks, Lori. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. It was great having Kevin as a guest on our podcast to enlighten us more about Our Family Wizard, how it was created, why it was created, and some of the awesome tools that it offers to help reduce stress with your co-parenting relationship. All right, folks, that's all we have for today. Join us next week. And remember, life is good when you nacho.